Hello, this is Diana Mahar. I wanted to share with you some information about our upcoming workshop where we're going to be upcycling old hardback books into personalized journals. So for this workshop, you'll be taking a few hardback books that you may have on your shelf or find at a thrift store or estate sale or the dollar store, and we'll be deconstructing them. So we'll be taking out the center text block and replacing them with papers of our own choosing. So the only requirement for the books that you bring for the workshop are that when you turn it on its side, you want to have a book that actually has a space in between the spine of the book and the text itself. So as long as there's a space there, we'll be able to use that book. We're going to be deconstructing it, taking out the center part, and then using the cover. And we'll be going over basic bookbinding concepts and then some simple stitching, so you don't need any sewing experience. And we'll be deciding on different papers that you'll want to put inside. So you can just use regular white paper, drawing paper, or watercolor paper. A lot of people like to use recycled papers. So this is packing paper from a package, old maps, and people use junk mail, depending on what you're going to be using the book for. One thing I do often that many people do is use these books as art journals, where you can then glue in different papers or use the book text and then do artwork over it, and just fill it with different scribbles and drawings, using old textbook pages, junk mail, and then painting or doing writing or other things over the top of that. So that's a common use. But you can also just create a writing journal where you use some other papers. For example, this is old wallpaper, but then just have plain writing paper in it for your book. There are also another technique that we'll go over is actually cutting a hole or a square out of the center of the book, and then using mixed media papers as what are called our signature wrappers. So the paper that goes around the plain book paper. This is another one that was made from an old book, just covered with fabric, and this mixed media paper, which is actually made from an old grocery bag. So the first 2 hours of the workshop will just be going over the books. If you do want to stay for the third hour, we'll be going over how to take an old paper grocery bag and turn it into some beautiful signature paper. You don't need any art experience. We'll just be using an old credit card and some stencils to make this beautiful paper that you can then cut up and use in your books. So as we get closer to the date of the workshop, you may want to start collecting some papers that you may want to use. Plain kind of heavier duty copy paper or construction paper. Many people like to use old music paper. So if you have any of those hanging around, and old maps are great, and old greeting cards, things that you've gotten in the past, junk mail, as I mentioned, of various kinds. Old calendars have beautiful, images on one side, and then you can always glue on or cover or paint over any writing on the back. And then pictures from magazines, really anything can be used to put in your book. So I hope you'll consider joining us and be able to collect your books ahead of time, and we'll have a great time. Thanks.